In response to COVID-19, PSP is offering telefitness to Canadian Armed Forces members. By using social media platforms, the telefitness classes tailored to Canadian Armed Forces personnel become accessible to all. Prior to participating in this session, and to make an informed decision on whether you should seek advice from a qualified exercise professional or healthcare provider, consult the Get Active questionnaire of the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology and its reference document by clicking on the links below. By continuing with this telefitness class, you understand that there is a possibility of physical injury and you agree that you do so voluntarily at your own risk. You also assume all risk of injury and agree to release the Canadian Forces Morale and Welfare Services from any and all claims related to your participation in this telefitness class.
Hello and welcome to Flexibility Mobility Fusion. I'm Petawawa fitness instructor Jessica Tetlaw, and today I'm going to be leading you through a functional mobility class specifically targeting hip rotation. So hip rotation is really important for things like squatting and jogging and all kinds of exercises that I'm sure you love to do. And having better hip rotation can make your hips feel a little bit less cranky. It can make those activities that you enjoy a lot easier to do. So that's why we're going to be focusing on it today. Functional mobility is designed to work on the active control of your joints and your muscles. So when you have passive mobility or flexibility, you're able to hold a static stretch, you're able to physically pick your leg up and move it into a position. But when you have active mobility or active control, you're able to move that limb on its own. So it's the difference between sliding into the splits on the floor and a dancer being able to actively lift their leg up into that position. So active control is going to get you better performance, less pain, and so that's going to be our goal today. With everything that we're doing, you shouldn't experience any pain. You don't want to push into pain. If something hurts, you should stop. This should be uncomfortable because you're challenging yourself and you're working hard, but it should not be painful. If you do experience any pain, try backing off about 10 or 15 degrees. If that doesn't lessen the pain, you can back off even more, or you can just skip and wait until we move on to the next thing. Make sure you have some water, you need some pillows nearby, and a wall is going to be helpful as well. We're going to start off with something called a controlled articular rotation. So essentially, we're going to try and take our hip through its entire range of motion and actively control it the whole time. So we'll start just by lying on one side. You can use a pillow to support your head if you wish. So we're going to start with our hips stacked. So my top hip isn't in front or behind my bottom hip. It's stacked right on top. Bottom arm is stretched out. You can drive it down into the ground, or you can just use it to give you some balance out there. Bottom leg is going to be slightly bent just in front again to give you some balance. And then top leg is going to be bent as well, and just let your knee rest down towards the floor. Top arm is straight out in front, and again my shoulders are stacked so I'm not rotated forward or backward. We're trying to maintain this strong position. You're going to squeeze your core and start to create tension through your whole body. So that's making fists and squeezing your hands, flexing your toes, squeezing your glutes, just trying to get your whole body involved. And as we continue breathing, we're going to pull that knee up in front of us as high as it'll go without letting our pelvis tuck under. We're going to open that leg up towards the ceiling. And as we do that, our knee is going to push forward as the foot comes back, coming into that beginning of rotation. Keeping the hips stacked, you're going to take your knee back and down as we sweep through, pulling that knee up again. We're going to do that full circle 2 more times. As you're doing this, if you're creating as much tension as you should be, you might experience some mild muscle cramping. That's totally normal. It's more to do with the fact that you don't normally move your body in this way. You're asking it to do something that it either has never experienced before or has only experienced a couple of times. So it's a neurological cramping. And as long as you can breathe and fight through it, you should be okay. So after we finish that 3rd rotation, we're going to switch directions. So now we're pushing back. The heel is leading backwards, and we're going to rotate that knee up towards the ceiling as we pull it down and forward. So we'll do 3 times on this side as well. Really trying to keep the hips and the shoulders locked into position. We're trying to isolate movement at the hip joint. So only the hip is moving. It's a lot more challenging than it sounds. Okay, remembering to breathe. And I think that was 3 times. And we'll switch sides. So you can just turn over, switch directions. It's the same setup. So bottom arm driving down into the floor. Top arm straight out in front, both creating fists. Bottom leg is bent, providing me a little bit of balance. Top leg is bent as well. So we'll pull that knee forward, not tucking the pelvis, trying to get as much movement out of it as you can. As we lift that knee up towards the ceiling and stretch back and down towards the floor. As we do this on both sides, it'll be really interesting for you to see, are there any differences between the sides of your body? If not, good for you, you're balanced. If there are, it's something for you to be aware of. So does one side of your body cause you a little bit more pain than the other or not? And as we finish that 3rd rotation, we're going to switch directions, drive that leg back, rotate the knee up towards the ceiling. And don't just let that leg fall down towards the floor. You're controlling every aspect of the movement. Remembering to breathe. We don't want to hold our breath. And 1 more. Here we go. Trying to get as much movement, as much range of motion as possible. Good. Okay. So we're finished with our cars. You can consider that like daily maintenance that you can do, the bare minimum that you can do every day to keep your hip joints nice and healthy. You can do those multiple times a day, once a day. That part's up to you. Next, we're going to come into a position called the 90-90 base position. So it's 90-90 because we've got a 90-degree bend at the back leg and a 90-degree bend at the front leg. If this position is uncomfortable for you, you can take a pillow and just place it under that front leg. So this way you're a little bit more elevated. It might be more comfortable for you to sit up in this position. If you don't need the pillow, that's totally fine. So check, is there a 90-degree bend at the knee? Perfect. Knee is going to be directly in front of the left hip. Then we turn our attention to the back leg, right knee directly beside the right hip, and a 90-degree bend at that knee as well. So you might already be feeling a stretch in the inner thigh, you might be feeling a stretch in the front leg. All of these things are normal. To start, we're going to work on our trail leg, so that's the back leg. We're going to work on internal rotation. So you'll be feeling some stretching in the front of your hip. It may wrap around slightly, discomfort, feeling a stretch, totally normal. If you feel pain, back out of the stretch, try adjusting with the pillow. I don't want you to be in any pain. To get into our proper position, We're going to rotate this glute, this hip down towards the floor. This way, we're not cheating, we can't use any other muscles to get into that stretch. I'm just going to grab my stopwatch here. So as we get accustomed to this position, you're going to start trying to drive your right shoulder towards the right heel. You'll feel that stretch increasing the deeper we get towards that ankle. If possible, try and keep that front knee on the ground, but if your body isn't there yet, it's totally acceptable for it to come off the ground at this point. We're going to hold this position for 2 minutes. If you're finding that this 90-90 position is just not working for you, you can bring this front leg towards the back leg. That might make it a little bit more comfortable for you. So as we're holding this stretch for 2 minutes, we're trying to actually make change in our bodies. So holding a stretch for 30 seconds feels pretty good, but you might notice that you feel tight, you feel tense later on in the day as well. So by holding for 2 minutes, we're going to make some changes in the actual tissues that are causing that tightness. While we're here, we can use our breathing to relax deeper into the stretch. So big deep breath in, exhale, and we get a little bit deeper into that stretch. At the end of our 2 minutes, we're going to ramp up the intensity, create tension through the body. We're going to drive this lower leg into the ground as hard as we can. We're just going to create as much pressure as possible by driving that leg into the ground. We're going to do that for 10 seconds. Then immediately following that 10 seconds, we'll spend another 10 seconds imagining that we're going to lift this foot off the ground. So the knee will stay on the floor. We're trying to rotate our leg deeper into internal rotation. It probably won't move, especially if you've tucked your hip back and down properly, but it's the intention of moving. You're going to feel the muscles lighting up as your leg tries to lift that foot off the floor. What we're doing is not only are we creating more space in our joints, we're creating more strength at our joints. And that is what helps lead to that greater amount of control. So I've talked a little bit too long now. We're a little bit over our 2 minutes. We're going to start to ramp up the tension. So about 20%, pushing that leg harder into the ground. We'll go 40%. 60%, you can start to make some fists, bring your arms into it, 80%. And at 100% tension, you're driving that leg into the ground as hard as you can for 10 seconds. We're halfway there, keep pushing. And now lift that foot off the ground. 10 seconds, you're probably going to cramp. Suck it up, you can handle it. We're almost there. Release that tension, but stay in your position. If you've got some cramping, take a few nice big deep breaths. And again, this is that neurological cramping. Your body's going, wait, what is happening? We've never done this before. I'm not sure that I like it. And you just have to keep telling your body to relax. It's okay. We're just going to make you nice and strong. Relax, body. It's okay. We're going to rest for about 30 seconds. Still trying to maintain that stretch. We're still driving the shoulder towards the ankle. We're going to start to ramp up the tension again. So about 20%. We can go a little bit faster this time. 40%. 80%. Drive that leg. And here we go, 100% tension. Fists are made. Drive that leg into the ground as hard as you can. Now lift that foot, even if it doesn't go anywhere. Keep trying. Good. Relax, release the tension, but don't go anywhere. We're just going to relax in this position. Couple deep breaths. Good. Stay here. I know that this isn't the most fun thing, but trust me, you're going to feel better after. And now we're going to turn our attention to the front leg. We're going to give this back leg a rest for a little bit. Focus on external rotation at the front leg. So what that will look like is eventually we're trying to lift this foot up off the ground. So to come into our stretch, we're going to square our shoulders with the front leg and hinge forward. So my chest is going up, forward, and then down. I'm not rounding through the spine. I'm trying to reach my chest forward. And I'm starting to feel a deep stretch in the back of my hip. So we're working on our hip capsules in this position. So those are the tissues that hold the joint into place. And they can get restricted just like muscles do. So that's why we're targeting those first. Still using our deep breaths and relaxing down into that stretch. You can use your arms to support you. You can use a stool or the wall or the pillow. All of these are options, and you can still definitely have this pillow under the front leg. We're just using our breath to relax. So 2 minutes can feel like a really long time, but if you're using it optimally, if you're practicing your breath, you can meditate into the stretch. That 2 minutes goes by pretty quickly, especially when you're a fitness instructor and you're just yammering on because you find all this stuff really exciting. So we're at about 1.5 minutes now. Still trying to get deeper into that stretch. Notice how your body gets comfortable and it gives you a little bit more space, slowly, inch by inch. We're going to start ramping up. So we're going to drive this leg into the ground. 20% tension. Not holding our breath. 40% tension. We're going to start making those fists at 60% tension. You have the option to lift the arms up. 80% tension. And 100% tension. Push, 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 push. Drive that leg into the ground as hard as you can. Now pull deeper into the stretch. Using the muscles at the front of your hip, just pull yourself down. Still creating tension through the whole body. Almost there. If your hands are up, you can place them down. Release that tension. Start to relax. Maybe you get deeper into the stretch. Maybe you don't. Both are fine. And now we rest for about 30 seconds. Just trying to catch our breath, keep our muscles relaxed if you're experiencing any cramping. We're going to do that one more time. So now we've worked on internal rotation of the trail leg, external rotation at the front leg, both of which are incredibly important for healthy, happy hips. Okay, here we go. So we're ramping up to 20% tension, 40% tension, moving a little bit quicker, 60% tension, creating tension in the arms. You can lift them up if you want at 80% tension. 100% drive that leg into the ground as hard as you possibly can. Push, 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 push. The whole body is involved. And now pull deeper into the stretch. Still trying to keep that nice neutral spine. Pull, 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 pull. Good. Relax the hands. Release the tension. Maybe get deeper into the stretch. Maybe not. And we rest here just for a few more seconds. Good. Okay. Slowly sitting up. Slowly coming out of that 90-90 position. Your legs might feel a little bit jelly-like. They just worked really hard. Give them a break. It's supposed to feel that way. Good for you if you're giving it that 100% effort. As cool as this stuff is, it only works if you do put in the effort. So we're going to switch sides now. So my right leg is now my front leg. My left leg is my trail leg. So just reassessing if you're in that proper 90-90 position. Do I have my 90-degree angle? Is my knee directly in front of my hip? When I look at my trail leg, knee beside the hip, 90-degree angle. We're good to go. So we're going to lock that trail hip down towards the ground. We're rotating open. We're driving the shoulder towards that back ankle. Again, you can place the pillow under your front leg if that's more comfortable. You can bring the foot towards the back leg. All the options to make it more comfortable for you. If you can keep this knee to the ground, good for you. If you can't, totally fine. We're focusing on this back leg mainly. Using our breath to meditate into that stretch, trying to get as close to the ankle as we can. We want to really reach the edge of that passive range of motion. That's where we're going to get the most gains for our strength and for our mobility. Good. About 1 minute down. Start mentally preparing for all of the fun that we're about to have. It's going to be the same thing, a 2-minute stretch. 10 seconds, drive that leg. 10 seconds, try and lift the foot off the floor. We'll rest for 30 seconds and then we'll do that for a second time. So we're going to start ramping up the intensity. Start driving that leg into the ground, 20% tension. 40% tension, ignoring any cramping that you're experiencing. And lift those arms up, create fists at 60% tension. Really concentrating all your effort. We're at 80% tension. Push, 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 knee to ankle equally, not just the foot. And here we go. We're at 100% tension. Drive that leg into the ground as hard as you can. Remembering to breathe. Now, lift that foot off the ground if you can. Try not to pull away, even if you're experiencing cramping, just like I am. And release the tension. Maintain your position. Don't come out of this stretch. You can rub any areas that are cramping. Try and focus all of your breathing to that area to help it relax. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're enjoying this. I know it can be kind of weird if you've never done this before, but I've found huge improvements in this style of training. Okay, so our 30-second rest is up. We're going to start ramping up. Drive that leg into the ground, 20% tension. Increasing to 40%. Arms are up if you wish, creating fists, 60% tension, 80%. Here we go, 100% tension. Drive that leg as hard as you can. Try and lift that foot off the floor, even if it's not moving. Keep trying, you got it. Release the tension, stay where you are. Maybe you get deeper into the stretch, maybe you don't. Both are fine. Good. We'll slowly sit up, rotate to turn our attention to that front leg so we can work on external rotation. So same setup. If you were in the modified position, make sure you reset to that 90-degree bend. Our chest is going to go up forward and then down as we hinge forward. Feeling that stretch in the back of the hip right into the capsule. We're keeping our chest, our shoulders squared with that front leg, as if we're going to bring our chest down outside of that front leg. Deep breaths. We're meditating into the stretch, making the most of the time. And just remember that we'll be driving this front leg into the ground as hard as we can, and then trying to lift this foot off, We're going to drive this leg into the ground, and then we're going to pull deeper into the stretch, using the muscles at the front of our hip. Hopefully you've got some fun music playing. We're about halfway through this stretch. Really focusing on not allowing the spine to bend. You'll notice if you do that you can't really feel that stretch in the back of your hip because you're no longer targeting those right tissues. Using the breath to relax deeper into the stretch. Freya wants to stretch too. Okay, we're going to start increasing the tension. Drive that leg into the ground about 20%. 40%. You can lift those hands up for 60% tension. Trying to keep the tension uniform. You're driving that whole leg into the ground at 80% tension. 100% tension. Drive that leg as hard as you can. Max contraction. Pull into the stretch. Chest goes forward and then down. Hands can come down. Release the tension. Maybe get deeper into the stretch. Maybe not. Just take a second to reassess if your spine's starting to round at all. Just pull the shoulders down and back. You can come up a little bit higher to keep that correct position. Cheating deeper into the stretch is just going to mean that you're not going to get the results that you want. We have to keep this honest. A couple of deep breaths, and here we go. We're ramping up to 20%. 40%, 60%, 80% tension, and here we go, 100%. Drive that leg as hard as you can. You got this. Keep breathing, almost there. Pull deeper into the stretch. Good. Relax. Place those hands down. Maybe come a little bit deeper into the stretch as you release the tension. Good. Taking a second to notice if there are any differences between the sides. You can slowly come up. We'll shake those legs out. If you can, they might just want to sit there for a second like jelly. And now is a good time to grab a sip of water if you've got some handy. Give yourself a second to relax. So just to recap, essentially what we've done until this point, we warmed our hip joints up, we explored their full range of motion, made sure that we weren't in any pain, nothing was wrong. It's kind of a good check-in. Then second, what we just did, that's called pails and rails. You can think of that as expanding the range of motion that you have, increasing the strength at your joints, increasing the control, and essentially it's strength training for your joints. That's why it requires that really intense maximal contraction. Now what we're going to do is something called a passive range liftoff. So we're going to specifically target internal rotation because a lot of us are lacking in that area from sitting, and just our activities of daily living don't really involve a lot of hip internal rotation. So for a lot of us, it's something that we're lacking. So it's important to work on it. You're going to need your pillow or your yoga block and your wall. So I think I have a better pillow to use here. There we go. What we're going to do is get ourselves set up at the wall. So feet are going to be on the wall, 90-degree bend at the knees, 90-degree bend at the hip. I'm set up facing away from you so that way you can see better what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to squeeze this pillow between my knees, and essentially, and Freya's very curious now. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to work on internal rotation of the right leg first. And that looks like squeezing the pillow and pulling that foot out to the side. We're going to do 5 sets of 10-second holds. We'll take a couple deep breaths between the 10 seconds and we can alternate sides. And essentially this is going to strengthen that internal rotation. So I'm going to get my stopwatch set up here. Take in some nice big deep breaths. Start to squeeze the pillows. Keep that left leg where it's supposed to be. And we'll pull that right leg out. Internally rotate, drive that foot as high out to the side as you can. 3, 2, 1, and relax. So you might experience some cramping. I know I definitely did, and that's totally normal. Take a couple deep breaths. Maybe Freya will move out of the way. Good. We'll squeeze, and here comes the left side. Pull, pull, pull. Holding that for 10 seconds, squeezing the pillow, squeezing through the hip. And relax. Good. A couple of deep breaths. Squeeze and pull the right foot, getting as much active range of motion as you possibly can. And relax. Good. Deep breath. Squeeze and left side. Hold, hold, hold. As hard as you can. Create as much tension as possible. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good. Deep breath. Exhale, right side. Squeeze. Don't forget to squeeze that pillow. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good job. This is not easy. Deep breath. Left side. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good. Here we go. Second last one. Deep breath. Right side. Squeeze every last bit of movement out of it as you can. Each time trying to increase. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Deep breath in. Exhale. Squeeze and left side. Here we go. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Try and get as much range of motion out as you can. And relax. Okay, one more each side. We're almost done. Deep breath in. Right side and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Deep breath. Left side, last one. Squeeze as hard as you can. Almost done. 3, 2, 1, and rest. And then put your pillow off to the side. Give your legs a second to come back to themselves. We'll come back into our space away from the wall. So now we've increased the range of motion and the strength at our hips. We've solidified that internal rotation, creating strength there. And now what we'll do is we'll go back to the cars that we did at the beginning. You're still trying to squeeze that maximal tension. And this time, you have a couple of options. You can either take your pillow or block and you can squeeze it behind your leg to help create that increased tension. Sorry, I just grabbed some water. So you can create that increased tension by squeezing something behind your leg. Or, and this could be cramp city, so fair warning, you can try doing your hip cars with a straight leg. It's more challenging because you increase the lever length. There's a little bit more gravity pull at play. Your leg will feel a little bit heavier. It'll be more challenging. But if you feel like you're up for it, I'll show you both options. So, just to show you the first option with the pillow, we're still set up on our sides. Shoulders are square, hips are square. And I'm going to squeeze this pillow as hard as I can behind my top leg. So what that will look like is I'll bring my leg forward just like I did before. I'll show you one in each side, one in each direction. Bring that knee up. We're rotating back and down. And then in reverse, really squeezing to hold on to that pillow. And then you can relax. And if you're wanting to try that with a straight leg, so bottom leg can stay bent, top leg is straight, we'll pull up. We'll rotate up towards the ceiling. Hopefully I'm not too tall to do this here. Oh, yep, I am. Leg straight. And then it'll come back. And all the way back to start. So, because I'm too tall for my own living room, I will be doing the option with the pillow, but you can choose either or. Now that we're ready, we're going to do 2 in each direction. So 2 full circles in each direction on each side. So we're setting up. Bottom leg is slightly bent. Shoulders are squared forward, hips are stacked, and pillow is squeezed. So here we go. We're going to pull that leg forward. Rotate up towards the ceiling. Squeezing the pillow as hard as possible. Don't let it drop. We complete that full first forward circle. Move on to our second one. It's exactly the same movement as we started with just now, with the intensity turned up even higher. So that's 2 forward circles. We'll go 2 backward circles. Squeezing that pillow or keeping your leg as straight as you possibly can. Don't let it drop. And relax. Good job. We'll switch sides. Setting up with that bent bottom leg, straight or bent leg with the top leg, arms straight out in front, shoulders are stacked. We pull that leg forward, squeezing through the fists, rotating that knee up and back. One circle complete, going forward again. Okay, good. And backwards 2 times. We're just solidifying those range of motion and strength gains that we created with the previous exercises. Last one, here we go. Don't drop it. Hold on as hard as you can. And relax. Good. Okay. That is your hip mobility class with me, Jessica. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure that you tune in on this following Monday at 8 a.m. because we'll be doing more hip mobility stuff. We're going to work on flexion and extension. So if you have tight hip flexors, that one's going to be for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.